Okay, so I don't know if this will wind up getting posted to YouTube, but just in case, let me explain what's going on here. I am, at this very moment, streaming this at Twitch. I have just finished Pokemon Let's Go Eevee, and I'm gonna go ahead and give my final thoughts on this. This is gonna be completely unscripted. There's probably not gonna be much in the way of editing, although I do have a few video clips and images that I can post here anyway that I've already prepared, so that will be a thing. Otherwise, this is completely off the cuff. I'm also going to say a spoiler warning. I will not hold back on the spoilers. I'm going to talk about any surprises that may be in this game, and believe me, there are surprises in this game, which certainly surprised me. All the while, I'm going to be riding on Catfish here. Catfish was not a part of this adventure, but Catfish has been on previous adventures, on previous adventures, and I figure she can be a cameo for this final thoughts review video. Oh boy, where do I even begin? Well, I suppose the best place to start is the beginning. As I said before, I started this adventure not with the highest expectations. I expected a cute adventure, but a pretty simple one. And yeah, there's some simplicity to this adventure, but to my surprise, there was a lot more to this adventure than I thought there would be. This ain't a straight remake. They actually put a lot of effort into this. Now, there's definitely some moments where they clearly put no effort into this, and I'll get to those moments when I get there, but this is a really good remake. Let me explain some things. First things first. The adventure is kind of the same as Gen 1. It follows the same beats, but the cutscenes have been expanded on. Some of the characters have just a tiny bit more depth. Oh, how did I miss that? And there's even some new cutscenes along the way, which was really cool to see. It's like, even knowing how the adventure goes, you don't know how the adventure will go. There's just these little changes here and there that kind of keep you on your toes. And also there's a whole thing where you can play with your Eevee. That's really cool. Link is pouting. Aw, don't feel too bad. That last fight was still really fun. And you're really fun, you know that? So many different interactions with you. There's some fun animations you sometimes do. You can poke your cheek, which is really fun. If the motion controls were not so lame at times. Admittedly, in other recent Pokemon games, there was the Pokemon Me feature, whatever it's called, where you can pretty much play with all of your Pokemon. But I feel like by focusing on just Eevee, they were able to do a little bit more than you can in those other games. Eevee has more stuff than the Pokemon in the other games. Besides that, it is absolutely made up for by the fact that your Pokemon can follow you. All of your Pokemon can follow you. And some of them you can ride on, as I'm demonstrating on here right now. And not just a few can be rode on, but a lot of them can be rode on. Rhyhorn, Rhydon, Arcanine, Gyarados, Starmie, Persian, of course, as an example we're seeing right now, Charizard, Dragonite, and some other Pokemon that I can't think of at the moment. It is really impressive how many of them you can actually ride on, and it is really cool that you can. Admittedly, it's also kind of annoying how sensitive they are to NPCs, and unfortunately you also can't hop off ledges with them. And also trees. I understand why it's done this way. It's because they don't want you getting stuck trying to travel in tighter places, but would be nice if they had done some other remedy other than randomly your Pokemon will hop into its Pokeball briefly while you pass by people. Still though, it is a really cool feature and I'm glad it was included. Oh, there was a ledge issue. And then there's how Pokemon can be found on the field. It's not random encounters anymore. For some reason, people were kind of complaining that you can see wild Pokemon now. Why? Being able to see Pokemon out on the field is awesome. There's no longer blindly running through grass hoping that the random encounter is the one you want. No, you can see if the Pokemon you want is the Pokemon you want. Even shiny Pokemon appear on the field. Not to mention, traveling through caves like Mount Moon, it is so nice to not have to deal with Zubat after 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 Zubat. Granted, if you don't want to deal with encounters popping up, there is also the option of using repels, which I never really used on this adventure. Because it didn't really feel necessary. On occasion, a Pokemon would pop up right in front of me and I'd get into an encounter then, but otherwise, the fact that I could see the Pokemon around me means I could easily avoid them. Speaking of Mount Moon, speaking on how they expanded on the cinematics of the game, had more cutscenes. Team Rocket, Jesse and James, it was really neat traveling through Mount Moon, and Jesse and James didn't just have a random appearance at the end of the dungeon, no, he spotted them throughout the dungeon, and that was pretty neat. In fact, going into more examples, Bill, him turning into a Pokemon, that was expanded upon, being foreshadowed before you met him, and then during his cutscene when he changed back to normal was really cool, being able to see the Nidorino pop out of the pod. In the original game, that didn't happen. You didn't see what happened to the Pokemon he split apart from. That was kind of left in the air. For all we know, instead of Bill being merged with the Pokemon was combined with him. And Pokemon Tower, the situation with the orphan Cubone, that was expanded on greatly, because Trace was involved. And so was Jesse and James and Giovanni. And it was really cool also that Trace adopted the Cubone. Definitely a shame that the Cubone never won any fights. Even in the battle where you actually got to train or battle alongside Trace and Trace's Cubone. Unfortunately, in my case, the Cubone fainted. But still, that was really cool. And in fact, speaking on Trace, he was surprisingly likable. Like, when I started this adventure, I was kind of annoyed that Blue, the most annoying yet most memorable rival in Pokemon history, got replaced with a friendly rival. But in the end, Trace actually wound up becoming one of my favorite rivals. He was fun to kind of hang out with. It wasn't annoying for him to spawn or be involved with cutscenes. In fact, he was more involved with the story, which was really neat. And definitely, yeah, I liked him. It definitely hopes that Blue wasn't completely replaced. Blue still had a few appearances in the adventure, even including him becoming the gym leader in the post-game at Viridian City. That's definitely pretty cool. Maddie says Trace is a friendly rival, but he wasn't too much of a goody-goody and fell into a nice niche of his own. Having not played Sword and Shield, I can't really speak for Hop, but it sounds like, to me, Hop is an annoying rival for the wrong reasons. Trace was fun, though. Okay, my thoughts are obviously going to be scatterbrained here, jumping from one topic to another, but rideable Pokemon. Not only can they be rode around on the ground, but if I might go ahead and briefly bring out Lit here. This is freaking awesome. Granted, this ability only becomes available in the post-game, but you know, there's enough content in the post-game, you definitely have opportunities to take advantage of it, and it's so cool to fly over all of these locations and fly over the buildings. The one annoying thing is that things are still a little segmented. We have this building right here blocking entrance to Saffron City, and there's more buildings like it, and it's like, well, why can't I fly over those? All the other locations in the game are interconnected, but around Saffron City and around Pokemon Road and even Viridian Forest, you have to take the time to go in the menu, go to the Pokemon, get off the Pokemon, and then land, go through the building, open the menu, go to the Pokemon listing, take the Pokemon back out, exit the menu, and then you're able to proceed. At the very least, it would have been nice if there were a quick mount button. Still, I can't complain too much. The fact that this is in the game at all is not something I expected. And then there's the catching mechanic. The catching mechanic is something that some people will like and some people will hate, understandably so. No longer taking the time to weaken Pokemon, but instead you just go up to them, maybe use some sort of fruit in order to make them easier to catch, or get more items out of catching them, and then just throw the Pokeball with catching mechanics. Admittedly, you can't just throw willy-nilly, it does require timing, trying to get into the ring, and watch out because the Pokemon can block the Pokeballs. That's a thing now. Personally though, I'm fine with this feature, I'm fine with this change, because it makes catching Pokemon a pretty quick process, and ultimately I find it less annoying than having to try to weaken the Pokemon without accidentally KOing it, which happens all the freaking time. And at the very least with legendary Pokemon, you still get to battle them. And what's really nice about the legendary Pokemon is you don't have to hold back. You can go all out. It's your goal to actually defeat them in battle. You never get to do that in the other Pokemon games, not unless you wanted to miss out on catching the Pokemon. Here, you can go all out and still be able to catch them. And I really like that. It also has the added bonus where you're battling them under a time limit, which makes things kind of more interesting. I definitely cut it really close with catching them. Oh, which one was it? Mewtwo? I think it was Mewtwo, where I defeated it right at the 0-second mark. And that was certainly something. Oh, even the fact that I had to battle Mewtwo. Most of the time, you get to Mewtwo, you throw the Master Ball, you're done. But actually fighting Mewtwo, that was really cool. Oh, I just remembered something else that I want to bring up. The dungeons. Every dungeon in this game has a unique look now. And I especially want to point out Rock Tunnel. So let me get back over to where that was real quick. So Rock Tunnel, you typically need the Flash HM in order to get into and be able to explore it. In Generation 1, Red, Blue, and Yellow, you can get through it without Flash because you can see the outlines of the walls. But in the first remakes, Fire Red and Leaf Green, you can't see nothing. It's pretty much almost required to use Flash to save yourself from frustration. But here, not only do they allow you to get through here without using Flash, but it also looks really cool. I love this. This is definitely cool. And I, of course, decided to forgo Flash and go through it like this. Because if you use Flash in this place, it actually doesn't look that interesting. But with a foggy aesthetic, I think it's way better to go through here without using Flash. And speaking of Flash, you don't even have Flash in this game. HMs, no longer a thing. Instead, all of your stuff is done with Eevee. Why are you so frustrated right now? You're usually so happy. But now all the HMs are done by Eevee, and I like that. No longer having to worry about HMs wasting up your move slots. That is easily one of my favorite improvements to the modern Pokemon games. And then there's the Pokemon Trainers. They didn't just straight up import the trainers from Red, Blue, and Yellow. No, they actually did something with the trainers. There's more variety with them, like bug catchers. Bug catchers have more than just Caterpies and Weedles. And then, I already passed one a moment ago, but they introduced Ace Trainers earlier in this game. Ace Trainers are one of the more difficult trainer types. And along with them, they also introduced Coach Trainers, which are also difficult. So, they definitely mix things up with this game, with the trainers, and I definitely like that. Going back to the wild Pokemon, one thing I'm not a fan of is the motion controls. They're required. You have to use motion controls to catch the Pokemon. And you kind of get used to it, but it takes a while to figure out. Like if a Pokemon is flying off to the side, it's not as simple as throwing slightly to the left or to the right. No, you have to like fling the controller to the side in order to throw the Pokeball to the side, and it took me way too long to figure that out. And besides that, the catching mechanics, the motion controls rather, are not entirely reliable. Like sometimes I'll do the motion and it's almost instant, but other times there's a delay. And the frustrating thing is, if you're playing this game in handheld mode, you don't have to use motion controls. You just, as far as I'm aware, all you need to do is just flick the analog stick to throw it. So they clearly programmed the ability to not use motion controls, which makes it all the more frustrating that they're pretty much required if you're playing in docked mode. Let's see, another thing I like. Well, as long as I'm passing them, might as well mention the Master Trainers. The fact that these trainers appear in the post-game, where you genuinely need to try, or else have really strong Pokemon, that's a nice addition. Definitely not worth taking the time to fight every single one of them, though, because this trainer, I can only fight with a Nidorino. This trainer, I can only fight with a Nidorina. It's definitely worth fighting a few of them with the Pokemon you've been training during the adventure, but it's not worth taking the time to train every single Pokemon in the game to fight every single Master Trainer. All you get out of it is a little title that Nurse Joy calls you. And possibly also in your save file? Is it in your save file? No, it's not in your save file. It's only whenever Nurse Joy talks to you. Possibly also when you're fighting a multiplayer. This game also has a lot more invisible items, I gotta say. Cool thing is they respawn, and some of your Pokemon that follow you will also notice hidden items that only they can find in the bushes, for example. I don't think it's the case with rideable Pokemon, though. It's only the ones that follow you. There's still a lot of items to find in this game. Lots of hidden goodies, and I like that. The way it works in this case, it's kind of not a great method to find hidden items because you have to be paying close attention. But when you're near a hidden item, Link's tail starts to wag faster. And you kind of have to play a game of hot and cold. Have to be facing in the direction of the hidden item until you're just close enough to find the item. So, in regards to difficulty, by the way I played, I was spending most of the game under-leveled, so it's hard to say exactly how to rank the difficulty of this game. Some people might have a much easier time with me. Maybe somebody spent a lot more time catching Pokemon and gaining experience that way. Maybe people used more candies, which I just realized I haven't talked about those yet. Maybe people trained less Pokemon. I went through this adventure training 12 Pokemon at the same time, so experience was kind of getting spread thin like that. So who knows, maybe if I had stuck with only 6 Pokemon, caught more wild Pokemon, used more candies, the game would have been a little bit more easier, perhaps even too easy. Hard to say. But on the subject of candy, that's certainly an interesting feature. In the older games, besides leveling up, you could also boost your Pokemon stats using vitamins, but there was a strict limit on how many vitamins you could use on each Pokemon. Not to mention, vitamins were really expensive. In this game, though, candy replaces vitamins, and they are plentiful. In addition to that, you can use a lot of them. Like, to my understanding, you could keep on using these and boost your Pokemon stats, each stat, by a maximum of 200 points. I tell you what, if you want to throw off the game's balancing, that is definitely a way to do it. Another thing that would make the game easier, but at the same time is also a really cool feature: Co-op mode. Unfortunately, you can't have your partner ride with you, but this is, as far as I'm aware, the first full Pokemon game that you can play the entirety of in co-op mode, with another person running alongside you and being able to battle alongside with you. That is really cool. The downside is that though you both battle together in trainer battles, your opponents still only send out one Pokemon, so that definitely makes things easier. Cool feature, but it would have been better if going into double battles means that your opponent also sends out 2 Pokemon. Granted, there are a few double battles in this game, but they're only for the sake of story, and not too frequent, which is a bit of a shame. I would have liked there to have been more full-on double battles in this game. Another thing that's kind of missing from this game is bicycles, but it's a kind of an understandable omission since you can ride your Pokemon. Certainly resulted in a strange hiccup, though. No more bikers in this game. Instead of their punk people or something, and yet some of them still reference being bikers. It's kind of weird. Likewise, there's also the Rockers, who in the older games had a guitar, but now they don't have a guitar. They just have a megaphone, and they're still called Rockers. That's kind of weird. By the way, besides flying on Pokemon, there are a couple Pokemon that you can ride on. Lapras is obvious, but also freaking Gyarados. I don't know if you can ride on Gyarados on this route, but let's see here. Yep, you can ride on Gyarados here. How cool is that? It's just a shame that there aren't more Pokemon you can ride on the water. Gyarados, Lapras. Yeah, I think that's it. Oh, I just remembered another thing. Let me go ahead and fly to Saffron City real quick. So another thing that has been updated in this game are the gyms. Now, some of the gyms are pretty much the same. Brock's gym, Misty's gym, Lieutenant Surge's gym. But then we have the Saffron City gym. Holy heck. This is amazing. Visually, Pokemon Let's Go is actually a really good looking game. I know some people will think it looks a little artificial given that the graphics are still kind of tile based, but still, this, they didn't have to do this. Game Freak only needed to take the original Saffron City gym and just make it 3D, where we just had a bunch of square-shaped rooms, and all you needed to do was run across from tile to tile in order to find your way to the end. But not only did they update this visually to make it look so freaking amazing, but now we have an actual maze. It was really simple to find your way through this in the original games, but here, you actually kind of try to pay attention to where you're going. And even now, I don't have this memorized yet. Out of curiosity, am I able to use an escape rope here? That's a bummer. Okay, excuse me while I try to find my way out of here. This is not the only gym that's been updated either. Like, Celadon City Gym is a hedge maze now. And, oh boy, Cinnabar Island Gym. That gym is now a quiz show. That is hilarious. And there's also some nice little touches in the game, like Mewtwo's cloning pod being in Pokemon Mansion, and the fact that Mewtwo reacts to it if you bring it there. That's pretty cool. There's also the power plant and how it's got all these wires that are shortened out around the place. What else? What else? Oh, the mystery truck at Vermilion City, where legend has Mew can be found under. By the way, Mew can't be found under it, but the fact that it is there is really cool. That is a really nice inclusion there. Like, they didn't have to include it. They could have swept it under the rug, but no. Not only is the truck there at the port, but you can actually find an item there. There's also Cameo Trainers, like this person here, right here. What is your name again? Mina. From the Alola region. That's pretty cool. And I think there was somebody else. There was somebody else that we either saw or got referenced, but I forget their name. And there it is, Mew's truck. And sure enough, the item here respawned somewhere. It's a revive. Interesting thing about the invisible items is they're not always the same. Sometimes they're different. It's kind of random what it is that you'll actually find, and it's definitely worth going back to find them from time to time and see what has spawned. Another cool thing about this game is the outfits. This is one of those Pokemon games where you can change what outfits you're wearing, and it's admittedly not as cool as it could be. I would not mind if we could dress up like a Pokemaniac and run around with a tail wagging behind me. But it's definitely a cool feature to be able to change your outfits. And not only my outfits, but also your Eevee's outfits, or in the case of Let's Go Pikachu, your Pikachu's outfits. Somewhat unfairly, your Pokemon has more options. Not only the hats and stuff that you can find, but there's also some extra hats like a straw hat, sweet hat, a Diglett cap, a crown. They also have access to different glasses. You don't. And also accessories like bows and flowers. Again, you don't. Still pretty cool that this stuff is even in the game, though. Now, there are some other things that I'm not so much a fan of, like trainer rematches. Most of the trainers in the game, you're not able to rematch. They added that ability in Fire Red and Leaf Green, but kind of took away that ability here. I would not have minded still having that ability. Like the Master Trainers, you can rematch, and in the post-game, you can also rematch all the gym leaders and also rematch the Elite Four and Champion. But I still would not have minded if there were some lower level trainers to rematch. Like if, for example, you decided, oh, I don't know, I want to train this Diglett that you only have at level 31. Or, well, Catfish is already at a higher level. Catfish was there while I was level grinding. But I also have some other lower level ones somewhere around here. Like this level 26 Graveler, what if I wanted to train that? Definitely cool, by the way, that you can get all the Alolan Pokemon in this game. That is definitely cool. I like that. I'm not terribly interested in them, but still cool that it's an option. There's also a couple things that are not in this game. Actually, a bunch of things that are not in this game, but we'll get to that. But let's go for the main things that are not in this game. Held items and abilities. Quite honestly, I don't miss held items too much. They were kind of a little bit not all that necessary. I mean, most of the time it basically amounted to equip this grass item on this grass Pokemon to make its grass attacks more powerful. And there's also a few items that were kind of strategic, like this item benefits from you being poisoned, or heck, this item automatically makes you poisoned, and then taking advantage of things that are more powerful when you're poisoned. But otherwise, I don't really miss them too much. Abilities, though, those I definitely miss. Like, I so would have liked to have had a Nidoran with Poison Point. That said, I definitely understand their omission. Pokemon Let's Go is meant to be a starting point for returning players, people who are getting back into the series, or people who are new to the series thanks to Pokemon Go getting them interested in it. And it would have kind of hurt if there were too many mechanics for people to learn, so I can't really complain too much. One annoying thing, though, that was in this game: gym requirements. In order to be allowed into Brock's gym, you needed to have a Grass-type Pokemon. In order to be in Misty's gym and Sabrina's gym, you needed to have a Pokemon at a certain level. Misty's gym I can kind of understand because you're intended to go see Bill before fighting Misty. Misty is notorious for being the most difficult gym leader in the original games, largely because a lot of people would go for her first, when, quite honestly, they're not necessarily intended to. But Sabrina, though, this game required that you be at a level that actually would have made her kind of easy. Thankfully, you're not actually forced to use those Pokemon, you just have to bring them to the gym. And let's be real here. Sure, it's kind of advice that you're recommended to have this Pokemon or be at this level, but shouldn't it be the player's choice whether they go to more difficult areas before they're supposed to? I mean, the Kanto adventure is almost open world. Like, you could go to Celadon City and fight Erica, or you could go ahead and get the Pokeflute and fight the Snorlax and come all the way to fight Koga before Erica. There's some openness in this game that I really like, and in fact, openness in the original games as well. Regardless, you could tell by the gushing of this game that I really love this game. I love everything they did to this. Like, even right here, there was an adorable cutscene that played with your Eevee playing with the Pokemon here in the Safari Zone. There's not only a lot of effort put into this game, there's a lot of charm put into this game. That's ultimately why I played this game. It looked so adorable. That was like the primary reason I decided to play this game. This may be a watered-down Pokemon game, but at least it has a lot of charm. No, it also has a lot of effort, and I gotta admire this game for that. Beerforce says, I hear that they make Pokemon games easier so kids can play them, but I was a kid when Pokemon first came out and I beat it. Yeah, that's kind of a thing, isn't it? Like, game companies nowadays underestimate just how skilled new players can be. Like, there's a lot to get used to, but they can figure it out. At the very least, as I have proven on this adventure, it is entirely possible to get a challenge out of this game. Like, I had to make use of... where are they? These X items. I had to make use of these X items a lot on this adventure to boost my stats during battle. In any other Pokemon game, I never use these items, because you don't have to. On this adventure, because of the way I specifically played, I needed to, and that was really cool. Maddie says they're making it easier so that the folks who review games, who generally don't play games, can play them and not find it too hard. Oh boy, you know, you're probably not too far off in that. Let me see here. What game was it? Oh yes. Crash Bandicoot Trilogy is the Dark Souls of platformers. Seriously? It's a hard game, but come on, comparing it with Dark Souls... Beaver says, yeah, this game probably wants you to catch lots of duplicate Pokemon like in Go. Maddie says, yeah, pretty much. It's a game that was made to kind of ease the Pokemon Go crowd into trying out mainline titles. Yeah, you can definitely see that with the candy system, and also sending your extra Pokemon to Professor Oak. That was a thing I hadn't mentioned yet, but you can do that. Let's see here. What's a Pokemon that I would not feel too bad? Well, I have a shiny Dodrio. Let me send the regular Dodrio to Professor Oak. How many Pokemon have I sent to Oak on this adventure, out of curiosity? 869. So, I actually kind of got into that. I went into this adventure intending not to go overboard with catching Pokemon to send to Oak, but the way I was playing, there came a point where it almost became required for me to use candies. Oh, one thing I forgot to mention is that your Pokemon can become happy, and when they are happy, they can sometimes avoid attacks in battle, survive with 1 HP, or even shrug off a bad status ailment. And I actually really like this feature. It actually saved my bacon on occasion. Maddie says, I'd honestly love to see them do a Let's Go Johto. See that region get this same kind of love. I'm kind of torn on that. I absolutely would like to see that as well, but at the same time, Heart Gold and Soul Silver are so close to perfection as they are. I don't know that a Let's Go Johto game would be to that generation's benefit. I mean, in those games, you're already able to have your Pokemon follow you. What else do we need? By the way, the fact that this game requires... The fact that this game... Oh, how to put this? This game only uses 1 Joy-Con to play 1 player. You do not use a second controller, except for co-op mode. And I kind of like how that's a thing. That means getting into co-op is really easy. Every Switch comes with 2 Joy-Cons. You're already capable of playing with 2 people. Heck, even if you're playing by yourself, as I demonstrated earlier, you can just play with 1 controller in each hand, and that's kind of fun. So, I have gushed a lot about this game. Like, you can tell that I love this game. So that brings into question, this is a full price game. Is this game worth full price? No. No, it is not worth full price. Because you are not getting a full game. Allow me to explain. So, right here is a list of every location in the first remakes, Fire Red and Leaf Green. This list is kind of inflated a bit because it also lists some important landmarks like the Celadon department store, but yeah, this is a full list of every location in Fire Red and Leaf Green. This is a list of every location in Let's Go Eevee. Do you see a difference here? For some reason, the newer game has less locations. By a visually noticeable amount, I should add. So, Fire Red and Leaf Green added a bunch of new locations to the game called the Sevi Islands. The way it worked is, at some point in the game, let's see here, town map. Upon arrival to Cinnabar Island, a new quest would open up, sending you to these new locations called the Sevi Islands. And the Sevi Islands would have these little quests to do, little places to visit, and then you'd be done with them. You go through and come back to Cinnabar Island, finish the Pokemon Gym Challenge, eventually fight the Elite Four, and then the Pokemon League, or the post-game would open up with more stuff to do on the Sevi Islands, including another Team Rocket hideout. This game does not have the Sevi Islands, and that is kind of lame. Like, I've talked about how much effort they put into this game. Imagine if they put that same amount of effort into the Sevi Islands. Like, when you arrive at the Sevi Islands, I think the initial quest you have there is you have to locate a missing child. In Let's Go, the reuniting of the orphan Cubone with its dead mom is really touching. Imagine if they did something like that with the reuniting of the child and their family on the Sevi Islands. And then there's also the situation with the Team Rocket hideout. In this game, there is the Team Rocket admin named Archer. In the post-game of this game, he's all alone in the game corner, and you beat him in battle, and then he talks about how he's going to try to revive Team Rocket, leading into Generation 2. On the Sevi Islands, there is a nameless Team Rocket admin, likely Archer, who pretty much says the same thing. You defeat him, and he's going to revive Team Rocket. But unlike in this game, he has an entire hideout that you have to go through with more Team Rocket members. And another thing, the person who initiates and in fact takes you to the Sevi Islands is Bill. I already talked about how in this game they expanded on how Bill got combined with a Pokemon. They could have actually referenced that had he taken you to the Sevi Islands in this game. Heck, Trace could have been there. You could have gone on to the Sevi Islands alongside with Trace. Now, I'm sure there's going to be some people who would argue, oh, the Sevi Islands and Fire Red and Leaf Green are remakes of Red and Blue. Let's Go is a remake of Pokemon Yellow, and therefore it does not count. Okay, fine. Let's go with that logic then. You're still not getting the full game. Let me bring up the game corner. While this game is a game corner, you don't do anything there aside from unlock the next dungeon. Meanwhile, in the original games, you have slot machines where you can win tokens, and you use these tokens to win yourself some rare Pokemon and TMs. Now, I can understand them taking out the slot machines in this game. It's a gambling thing. They don't want to encourage gambling at a young age. And if that's all that was done... Oh, that was the wrong place. And if that was all that was done, I would not complain too much. I'd be like, okay, they can't have the slot machines, and therefore they kind of had to remove the game corner. But here's the thing. They didn't just take away the ability to play the slot machines. They actually replaced the slot machines with family-friendly games. With games that kids actually could play. A game in which Pokemon surf on a surfboard. Oh, I'll be getting to that in a few minutes. A game in which you lead many Pokemon to a goal. What's over here? A game in which Pokemon fly high with balloons. It's a Pokemon fighting game. Is Pikachu fighting in a mask? Admittedly, that one's a reference to another game, Pokemon Tournament DX, which actually is a really fun game. I definitely recommend that if you like fighting games. A game in which you match 3 pictures. Staring at it makes you dizzy. This is probably the only reference left over to the slot machines. Maddie says, I think they're all references. Yeah, they kind of are. This is a reference to a minigame that you can play in this game. Again, I'll get to that in a moment. But still, they put in the effort to replace all these slot machines with family-friendly games. That way you actually could have a functional game corner, but they don't actually let you play them. And in the process, they also took away the prize center. Let me get back to this one. So, opening up the map, in Pokemon Yellow, there is a building that you can find just south of Fuchsia City. In this building is a surfer and his Pikachu. It is a reference to an episode of the TV show, I forget what episode, that involves surfing, something like the Big Kahuna or something. But in this building is a surfing Pikachu minigame. I think the way you play this game, in the original Pokemon Yellow, you needed to teach your Pikachu how to surf, which you required Pokemon Stadium to do, but I think in the Virtual Console version, they removed that requirement. All you need to do is just bring your Pikachu here, and you can play this minigame. This minigame is not in Let's Go. They reference it, but they don't have it. So that is another thing that was removed from this game. And then, of course, there's the Safari Zone. Now, in the original Safari Zone, you don't battle Pokemon and weaken them in order to catch them. You just run up to them, you maybe throw an item to make them easier to catch, and you throw a Pokeball. Sound familiar? That's because that is how every Pokemon is caught in this game. So, I can absolutely understand them kind of removing the Safari Zone in its original form. So, what did they replace it with? Because they actually did replace it. It was that chasing minigame where Pokemon follow you that the Game Corner mentioned. In order to be able to play this minigame, you have to also link this game with Pokemon Go. What's that, you say? You don't have Pokemon Go? Well then, in that case, you get nothing. For you, and myself, the Safari Zone is replaced with nothing, aside from a zoo, which was kind of already in the original games anyway. So, in addition to content just being completely removed from this game, there's also parts that are straight up unfinished or rushed. Let me talk about the rushed things first, because I've got some examples here. So, at the start of this, around the start of this game, there's a moment where you catch Eevee in your arms and it hops up on your head. There's also a point near the end of the game where the same thing happens, pretty much using the same animations. That's pretty cool. The fact that Game Freak or whoever did the animations did that is really cool. There's also a point in the Rocket Game Corner where you also catch Eevee. Done on a black screen. They've already shown that they are entirely capable of showing you catching Eevee, but they did a black screen. If I had $1 for every instance where they use the black screen as a shortcut. Like, oh, we need to teach Eevee how to ride those balloons to fly everywhere? Oh, we can't show that. Better do a black screen. What's that? We need the player to climb onto a chair? Oh, we definitely can't do that. The player might question why they can't hop up of ledges. So we'll definitely use a black screen for that instead. Or how about this? Let's throw a curveball here. You say we need Jesse and James to open a door? Oh, we definitely can't do that. The door is only programmed to open for the player. So, you know what we'll do? We'll throw things off for the player. We'll use a white screen instead. Like, seriously, out of all the shortcuts, that one is probably the most pathetic. And then there's battle animations. There's not a trainer immediately within my vicinity, but some of the battle animations have no animation. Oh sure, there's a special effect that will play, but for example, double kick. Instead of having the Pokemon animate, all they do is lift up the Pokemon model and put it back down. And in fact, it seems to me that every multi-hit move in the game works exactly that way. Let's see here. Examples. Double slap? Pick up the Pokemon, put it down. Fury attack? Pick up the Pokemon, put it down. And then there's dig. Instead of having a digging animation, what they do is they have the Pokemon sink into the ground like it's quicksand. My personal favorite, though, is Body Slam. Basically, they pick up the Pokemon and put it down, but they put it down on your opponent. Okay, so going with the black screens, I can perfectly understand that. Game Freak has this unfortunate rule where they have to churn out a Pokemon game every year. They needed to release this game in time for the holidays. They couldn't delay it to improve animations, to do better things with the cutscenes. Okay, seriously, Link, why are you so unhappy right now? That's better. See, you can be totally happy. Anyway, what was I saying? Right. So I can definitely understand that they were not able to have the time allowed to improve some of the cutscenes. They had to go with the black cutscenes. Not only were they needing to release the game in time for the holidays, but Sword and Shield was releasing the next holidays. Admittedly, they should have delayed Sword and Shield as well, but that's an entirely separate discussion. But the attack animations? How many 3D Pokemon games have there been so far? I mean, there's been the Stadium games on Nintendo 64, there's the Coliseum games on GameCube, there was also a game on Wii, but those were spin-offs. Let's point out the full adventure games. We had X and Y, we had the Ruby and Sapphire remakes, we had Sun and Moon, we had Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. Are you telling me that in all this time, they were not able to fix the animation for Double Kick? And for all I know, all they needed to do was select an animation from a drop-down list. Maddie says they're using the same models also. That I can forgive. At the very least, these models are really nice. But, come on, seriously? You can't take one of the existing animations and apply it to the Pokemon attacking. To be fair, maybe it's not as simple as I think. Maybe Double Kick, for example, is across all Pokemon programmed to use animation number 3. And as we've seen, most Pokemon only have 2 animations. So when it's calling for animation number 3, there's just no animation. But if that's the case, that's kind of a really shoddy way to have these animations programmed. Again, after all this time, they couldn't have fixed that? There's also silly moments, like when my Eevee was being taught how to cut bushes. In order to cut bushes, if we're going by the demonstration the captain of the SSN provided us, in order to cut bushes, all you need to do is stand in front of a bush straight out as a board and hop up and down like a stick. Apparently they couldn't even animate him using a karate chop. With that said, despite some things being missing from the game, despite things being seemingly, well, not seemingly, but very much unfinished, I still think that Pokemon Let's Go is the definitive way to play Generation 1. Allow me to explain myself and kind of do a comparison with the first remakes, Fire Red and Leaf Green. Now, I have no nostalgia for Fire Red and Leaf Green. I played through it once, maybe twice, that's it. And Fire Red and Leaf Green are basically Gen 1 with a fresh coat of paint. They got new mechanics, or rather updated mechanics. They got better presentation, and of course they got the Sevi Islands. But otherwise, the adventures are pretty much the same. Complete with, I'm pretty sure the dialogue is almost identical as well. And as a result, especially comparing with Ruby and Sapphire, which released on the same system, to me, Fire Red and Leaf Green feels a little bit aged, again, with none of the nostalgia. Honestly, I'd rather play the actual Generation 1, Red, Blue, and Yellow. Sure, those games are old, but it's the nostalgia trip for me. This game, on the other hand, they did so much with this. Game Freak took a chance with this game, changing the story. Well, not necessarily changing, but adding to it, adding cutscenes. If there's something they changed the rival. They replaced the annoying rival with a friendly one, and it worked. They changed the monster catching mechanics. Like them or hate them, I think the new catching mechanics work. In Yellow, your Pikachu is just a regular Pikachu, kinda weak and not very versatile. This Eevee is a Super Eevee, able to learn all sorts of attacks. I don't really know what the Pikachu is like in Let's Go Pikachu, but I assume it is also better than the average Pikachu. And on top of that, there's the modern conveniences, replacing HMs, making it so that TMs have unlimited usage in battle. And of course, the fact that you can ride on Pokemon and also have Pokemon follow you? Fire Red and Leaf Green was a Gen 1 with a fresh coat of paint. This game is like a brand new game that simply used Gen 1 as a foundation. This feels fresh, and I love it for that. Now, of course, there are the things that is missing. It doesn't have the Sevi Islands, doesn't have the Game Corner, doesn't have the Surfing Pikachu minigame. To be fair, I've never actually gotten to play the Surfing Pikachu minigame. But when it comes to, like, a full mechanical Pokemon game with like held items and abilities. This game doesn't have them, but here's the thing. I'm not forced to only play this Pokemon game. I can also play Fire Red and Leaf Green. Not Fire Red and Leaf Green, I meant Heart Gold and Soul Silver. Heart Gold and Soul Silver, to me, are the definitive Pokemon game, period. Going beyond that, if you want a Pokemon game with a better story, there's Black and White. If you want kind of a unique take on Generation 1, a unique take on the traditional Pokemon formula, this game is absolutely worth playing. It may not be worth full price, but I think it's definitely close to being worth full price. Like here in the US, it's worth $60. Personally, I think this is at least worth a $50 game. This game was just so much fun. I love this game so much. Admittedly, my opinion of this game could change. I might do another run where I play a little bit differently and I find out that the game could be a little too easy depending on how you play. The way I wound up playing, though, I had a lot of fun. It was fun getting a challenge. It was fun seeing all the different surprises, seeing the trainers have different Pokemon, some of them with attacks I was not expecting, like Machamp with Fire Blast? Really? I had so much fun with this game, I can definitely recommend it. Let me take a drink here. And before I close things off, is there anything that anybody wants to add? So hello there, Warrior for Life. Yes indeed, happy Pride Month indeed. This is especially important to me for obvious reasons. Beerforce says, you certainly spent a good bit of time with this game. Oh, I'll say I did. Look at this, 123 hours. Admittedly, some of that time was spent taking breaks during streams, but that's pretty meaty considering it's just Kanto. So yeah, as you're saying, Beerforce, I did at least get my money's worth, that is for certain. With that, I think that is everything said that needed to be said, and it is time to close things out. Oh boy, did I have a lot to say. What was that? More than an hour of talking about this game? All of its good points, all of its bad points? Yeah, that was quite a review, we'll say. My voice is exhausted, my throat is dry. I'm gonna go ahead and end things now. And we'll see you in the next one. Thank you guys for watching.